There's clearly, again, the India that understands English as a language and the importance to know English as a language, and the other India, which is as aspirational and as sort of keen to get into the IITs for the best opportunities, or sort of our other top institutions, why just IITs, and then feels that the lack of English is holding them back.
English is a very, very important component for us to communicate.
Fair enough,
and
right.
it is that skill that we should go behind. We should train people more in English, because if we are going to make sure that people are only trained in the regional language, they will just remain within the state. They cannot even look for jobs outside their state.
Right.
It is important for us to be international, because that is where the jobs are. And once we get there, there's a lot more things, a lot more development that will happen around it. And it's also important for us to see how to create, inculcate this habit of learnability into people.
Right. If I may ask you, Mr. Mehrotra, are these the kind of skills that we can actually teach someone, or sort of is it you have it or you don't have it? I mean, either you have the ability to learn to stay ahead of the curve, or you don't have it.
If you notice what everybody talks about, a whole child development, it talks about, and that's what all frameworks that you talk about emphasize on, a whole child development and acquiring, life skills, or loosely stated 21st century skills. The entire education system is fairly clear. You are preparing people for jobs, for employment, which is not going to be there beyond a point. So learnability, literacy, numeracy, softer skills are extremely important for you to stay relevant into the future.
The important point that Mr. Mehrotra is making is just not what do you know, but how do you use what you know? What sort of practical, hands-on knowledge do you have that you can really use? We've been talking about it for so long, but do you actually see sort of any sort of movement to change the system as we know it, or are we going to be sitting here talking about this another decade from now? Because it seems we've been doing that.
No, let me go back in the the early days when the IT industry itself was emerging, right? So at that point of time, of course, we had far less engineering graduates than what we have today. So at that point, the skills were being imparted by large informal training networks. So there were all these private institutes, and they were mushrooming all over the country, and they supplied this manpower, which contributed greatly to the development of this industry.
Right.
So your question earlier, whether it's not people don't like to get skilled, I think it's purely a function of how attractive is the job market.
Right. Why have we not been able to create more such sectors? Why haven't we been able to sort of duplicate the IT example in more sectors? Because there's so much more that India needs at present and will need in the years to come.
Yeah.
When you said whether the corporate would make the investment or education sector would make the investment to get this, maybe an Infosys can make an investment, or a company which has 10,000 people can make an investment. I don't think the average company which has 100 people would be able to make that investment.
Fair enough. Right.
And a lot of this, all these are waves which happen, so IT industry is attracting people, so a lot of coaching centers would mushroom. People would take that course, there will be an oversupply, and then those guys won't get jobs and the centers would close down. And this is exactly what's happening in the engineering colleges or the MBA colleges right now. And unless there is a structural correction around this, or which is on the supply side, the demand side will correct only what it can correct. So at best, it can move into the last 6 months or last 3 months. That also the larger companies can move. Finally, if I am an entrepreneur who's running a 100 people company, I can't really get into, who I have to train and what I have to train.
Exactly.
I'd get them on board and
you will manage with what you have on offer,
I'll manage
whatever's coming to your door.